Good morning and welcome to another edition of Morning Buzz with the Energy Guys. Now, I've been contemplating dropping the S because I have yet to find anyone that is willing to share the seat next to me and the microphone next to me here in the Farmers Electric studio. So, that being said, I'm going to try to figure out how to get the S off of guys on our Facebook page. That may be a challenge, but I'm hoping one of my kids will help me figure that out. They seem to be pretty technology savvy anyway. Hey, it's time to give a shout out to another listener, and that is going to be Karen Barleben. Karen is the wife of Steve Barleben and the mom to Glenn and Ryan Barleben. I say mom because Karen is from England. So I guess when Steve was stationed over in England across the pond, he fell in love with Karen, and the rest is history. They made their family here in eastern New Mexico after, well, I guess Steve was probably stationed at Cannon Air Force Base and raised the two boys here, Glenn and Ryan. So the Barleben clan is comprises probably about 90% of our listeners right now. So welcome, Karen, and the rest of the Barlebens. Glad you guys are listening. So last week we talked about lighting being a pretty good portion of your electric bill, or it can be. Doesn't have to be. There's been a trend over the last, probably 20 years now, moving from incandescent lighting, which is what most of us grew up with, if you're 40 or older. And they put off a lot of heat. So popular wattages were 40, 60, 75, 100. And last week talked about, young girls in elementary school that I was acquainted with anyway that cooked on the Easy Bake Oven. And you had the heating element was a 100 watt light bulb. And they could cook cookies and cakes. And, those are the girls you wanted to friend pretty quickly because they knew how to bake at an early age. But so the trend has been try to find some kind of lighting that uses less electricity, less heat producing. And the first option was pretty effective, and it was CFL's compact fluorescent lighting. They didn't last a whole long time because right around the corner were LEDs, and that's kind of what we're in the middle of right now. And I don't know that there's a big press to come up with something more efficient or cooler burning than those. They're really pretty ideal lighting. I don't see many downsides to them. As a matter of fact, if you shop for Christmas lights over the last several Christmases, that's about all you can find. Their price point has come down considerably, and they put off an amount of lumens that are really bright, set off your house at Christmas with the same amount of strings, but considerably less electricity users, probably a tenth of what the old Christmas lights were. I remember when I first started at the electric company, we'd have customers calling in with high bill concerns, and they'd be like, "Oh, it'd be the December, January bill," and a big question was, did you decorate the outside of your house with Christmas lights? Because that could drive your bill. They really don't drive your bill anymore, not with the LEDs. But I talked about the lighting facts, little white square rectangle on your lights when you're shopping for lights, and I call it, just for fun, I call it nutritional facts because it looks like one of those nutritional facts label on food. And it is chock full of good information on the lighting facts or nutritional label again, like I like to call it. So it'll have things like brightness measured in lumens, the estimated yearly energy cost, the life expectancy, the light appearance, which is the temperature of the light, whether it's warm. If it appears warm, it's probably lower on the Kelvin scale. And if it's a cooler light, which is white or almost blue, it's higher on the Kelvin scale. And then its actual energy use, like at instantaneous, what wattage is it using when it's burning? And I grabbed one of these just so I could go over it. So brightness on a 7-watt LED light puts out 500 lumens. And that's probably what equivalent to a 75-watt light bulb would do in the old incandescent bulbs. So nothing to sneeze at. Pretty good light for 7 watts versus 75 watts. Kind of easy math there. It's about a tenth again. Estimated yearly energy cost, 84 cents. Now that's based on Farmers Electric rates, which are around 11 cents per kilowatt hour, and burning those 3 hours a day. So 84 cents to burn a light bulb 3 hours a day. Not bad. I can't actually think of a better bargain. Life expectancy. Again, this is based on 3 hours of usage per day. Get this. You ready? Are you sitting down? 23 years. Now, we haven't had them installed long enough to know if that's true or not. But in a laboratory setting, apparently, controlled environment, these really smart guys with all the letters behind their name decided that a 7-watt 500 lumen LED light bulb would last 22.8 years. I just rounded it up to 23. But that's kind of nice, particularly those with, some of the homes that we serve have, particularly the new constructed homes, have high ceilings, vaulted ceilings. And they've got the canister lights, and they're just almost impossible to change. You've got to have a, 12-foot ladder at least to get that high. And higher in some homes. But, as you age, that's something you don't necessarily want to do. Even the young person doesn't want to do that because those ladders are hard to lug around. And so if you can change a bulb every 23 years, that's not so bad. As a matter of fact, I might be changing bulbs right now that are going to outlast me. I'm going to die before they do. Kind of a strange thing to think about, isn't it? Kind of like the obituary picture. You wonder what picture are you going to use for your obituary? When was it taken? When you're taking it, you don't have a clue. I'll get off of that. So the light appearance, this particular package that I grabbed is a 3000 Kelvin on the Kelvin temperature scale, which puts it in the warm range. So typically what you'll find in the warm range, it's a little more yellow, warmer feeling, is 2700 to 3000 Kelvin. The cooler bulbs, cooler lighting color is up around the 5000 Kelvin range. And those will look white, almost blue, kind of like most fluorescent office lighting. And apparently that's supposed to mimic sunlight. And then, of course, the last thing on the nutritional facts or lighting facts is the energy used, which is 7 watts. So the bills that are going out right now, they're starting to go up. They're starting to creep up a little bit. And there's a couple reasons for that. The days are getting hotter, for one thing. We're getting into our warmer season. It's July 12th, and we haven't had as much moisture the last couple of weeks or week or so, and that had cooled things off for a while. So folks, you're going to start seeing a little higher bill. Okay, and days are about as long as they're going to be. We've passed the longest day, which I believe this year was the summer solstice, was June 22nd, maybe, which is the longest day or the day with the most light. Yeah, people tend to stay up longer when it's and use electricity more when it's light outside. So the days are long. They're getting hotter. We've had good moisture. So, if you're a member consumer of our utility anyway, our electric co-op, if you're using a well, you've been able to cut back considerably on that as far as watering your yards and plants and things such as that. I know mine hasn't operated hardly at all because the rains have been almost perfect timing. I don't remember a spring and summer with this much rain. Of course, I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning either, so maybe that's not helpful. We are entering the dog days of summer. And I've used that term before, but I never understood what it meant. I just use it. It's kind of like fair to middling. When somebody asks you how you're doing, oh, I'm fair to middling. How about you? I'm not going to give you that definition today, but I will give you the definition of dog days of summer. The dog days of summer are the hot, sultry days of the summer. They were historically the period following the rising of the star system Sirius, which in Greek astrology is connected with heat, drought, sudden thunderstorms, lethargy, fever, mad dogs, so I guess that's where the dog came from, and bad luck, of all things. Who knows? I don't put much stock in that, but that's where the term dog days of summer came from, if you ever wondered. Hey, before we get into talking about July 12th, before we get into any other savings as far as your bill might go this summer, I thought we'd do a little history lesson. So this day in history, July 12th, 1861. I wasn't around, but I just read about it. Wild Bill Hickok is involved in his first gunfight and begins to establish his reputation as a gunfighter after he shoots 3 men during a shootout in Nebraska. I didn't read all the details, but from that point on, he was known as a pretty bad dude. Stay away from him. Don't tick him off. 1862, this day, July 12th, President Abraham Lincoln signs into law a measure calling for the awarding of the U.S. Army Medal of Honor. Pretty cool. So I'm guessing the first Medal of Honor winners probably came out of the American Civil War. A few years later, July 12th, 1957, Dwight D. Eisenhower, president, becomes the first president to ride in the newest advance in aviation technology. I'll give you a minute to think about that, or a couple seconds. It was the helicopter. Yeah, July 12th, 1957, President Dwight Eisenhower becomes the first president to ride in the newest advance in aviation technology, the helicopter. Dwight D. Eisenhower was considered by a lot just a great man overall. I mean, he was a 5-star general and the supreme commander of the Allied forces during World War II, and then became a good president. Besides flying in the helicopter, he established the interstate highways across the United States that really help interstate commerce and just people that are trying to go on vacation and travel across the country. It was really a very convenient method of doing so, and still is today. These hot days that we've come across just very recently, and we're gonna start hitting that 100-degree mark. We've been awful close. So how do we combat those days? And how do the comfort side of it? And how do we combat the rising electric bills? Always have a cold drink handy, especially ice water. You want to stay hydrated. These type of days, particularly if we spend much time outside, can get dangerous, and it can get dangerous quickly. And you all know that if you can go out and just work a little time in the yard during one of the hottest days, your body starts to tell you pretty quickly you are thirsty. And the only thing you can really think of is an ice cold water, and you can drink about a gallon of it if you've been outside for about 30 minutes. It's amazing how quickly the body loses moisture, and you become dehydrated. And that can be dangerous, particularly for the older group of folks in our listening area. And I just want you to pay special attention to that. Stay hydrated. There's also drinks like Gatorade and Powerade and a number of others that will quench your thirst, rehydrate you, and also give you the electrolytes that your body needs. That's not a commercial for any of those companies. That's just a fact. And it's nice to have something like those on hand. Now, you don't want to drink too many of them because they're pretty high in sodium, but you need that sodium replenished in your body when you're outside working in the heat of the day. But water is probably your best go-to, and that's what I'm drinking right now. Not much better, not much anything better than Eastern New Mexico water. Pretty good stuff. Keep those fans on inside. And when I say fans, I'm talking about box fans, oscillating fans, or ceiling fans. They're low energy users, but they keep the air moving. They can move conditioned air. So if you're running your air conditioner, they can move that air and that cool air and keep it moving throughout your house. Now, I do say this: if you're in an unoccupied room, you don't necessarily need a fan going, because that's really for your comfort in that particular room. Your ceiling fans, you want those on in the occupied rooms. A box fan, same thing, because nobody's going to feel that air much in a non-occupied room. So particularly in the evening, say we've got a hot evening, and you've listened to our show enough to know that we suggest you set your thermostat at 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's not me talking, that's the Department of Energy. The Department of the Food and Energy Council also suggests 78. And they feel like your body can acclimate to that. And your alternative is this: it's high bill, because that's what drives your bill. That's the big driver in the summertime, is air conditioning. Okay. So the alternative would be, throw a light shirt on, t-shirt, wear some shorts, kick off your socks, put on some sandals, something. Have that water ready, that ice water. But if you're ever curious, and we talked about this in our first or second show, the ceiling fan, what direction should it be turning? Well, if you're looking up, straight up at it, and you envision a clock, it should be turning counterclockwise. Okay? Look straight up at the ceiling fan and envision a clock. And then if it's turning counterclockwise, it's turning the right directions. What that does is it blows a comfortable, or creates a comfortable downdraft in the middle of the room, or wherever your ceiling fan is. Typically, they're in the middle of the room. And that's kind of where you want to be seated. A couple of chairs, maybe a couch, love seat, or whatever, where you can feel that comfortable downdraft. And during the winter, you want just the opposite. You want it to be going clockwise, and it's pulling the air up from the middle of the room, across the ceiling, down the walls, and then across the floor. Again, the cycle starts again, up through the middle, across the ceiling, down the walls. And you should not feel a draft in the wintertime. You don't want to feel a draft in the wintertime, do you? Now, there is a place where you might feel a bit of a draft, and that's against a wall. But the volume of the fan shouldn't be high enough where it's creating much of a draft. It should be on a low setting, where it's not creating a draft, but it is effectively pulling air throughout the room and pushing it across the ceiling, down the walls, and across the floor. In the summertime, you want it up a notch or two. You want it on medium or high because you want to feel that draft. Okay? Central air conditioning. If you want to save money and you want your air conditioner to run, it's most effective or most efficient. You want to change your filters probably every 30 days to 45 days. Okay? They get dirty. It's amazing how dirty those things get. You can't imagine. I went into a house one time, and I'm not going to use anybody's name, but they said that our air conditioner runs all the time, and it never seems to cool, and we're just super uncomfortable, and we've got these super high bills. I mean, they were looking at a $400 bill because their air conditioner, which is pulling about 6 kW or 6,000 watts when it's operating. I think it was operating 20 hours a day or more. That adds up quick. Yeah, so they were facing some very high bills, and they called me out of concern. So I show up. I say, ding dong, energy guy. Come on in. Let's sit down at let's talk about some things. So I basically did a quick and dirty audit on their house. And I said, when's the last time you changed your filter on your air handler? And they're like, filter? What filter? And I said, uh-oh, here we go. This may be your issue. So theirs just happened to be in a closet at the end of the hallway, so it was really convenient for me. I opened the door, pulled out the filter, and it literally had 2 to 3 inches of dust. And, just a thick blanket of dust and fiber that had been pulled into the system. And it would have been equivalent to like someone covering your mouth and your nose with their hand and asking you to breathe normally. That's why it was so inefficient. That's part of it. And then the coils were I looked further and I saw the coils were just covered. And I said, I tell you what, I know a guy. And I said, his name's Andy Cox. Give him a call. He needs to come out here. He needs to pull out those coils. And what Andy's done in the past, I know because he did it for these people. He basically took those coils to a car wash and used the high pressure water and just blew all that dirt and grime that had built up over time. And he got them reinstalled pretty quickly. I think he did this all in one day. And he checked the Freon levels, and they seemed to be fine. Everything seemed to be fine. And just reinstalled the coils, put a new filter in. And in no time flat, it was cool in that house. I mean, they had it down to about, and I don't blame them for this because it'd been about 85 in there with the air conditioner running 20 hours a day. They couldn't sleep at night. But in no time flat, it was about 75 degrees. And it was 100 degrees outside. Check your filter. Not just check it. Go ahead and change it. They're not that expensive. And you don't need the best filter. I mean, those filters can get expensive. They're like so many micro this, that, or the other thing that they keep from going through your house. I mean, I guess that's good. But I tell you what, something's better than nothing, and changing them often makes sense. So I would get a cheaper, maybe middle of the line filter, and just as you buy it, you're cringing a little bit because it could be $8 to $12, right? But you just think, well, I'm going to be more comfortable, and I'm going to my system's going to last longer, and I'm going to have less service calls to heating and air conditioning guys like Andy Cox, and I'm going to be far more comfortable. So, $10 or $12 isn't a bad deal when you're talking about your comfort and how much you might be able to save on your air conditioning. Here's some more things. Cook outside, particularly at night. It's pretty warm still at night before the sun's going down late, 8:30. Cook outside, grill out. I mean, if you have your cook stove on and you're trying to bake something, or maybe you're doing a rack of ribs or, who knows what, a casserole, just cook outside. Now, it's a little more difficult to do a casserole, but I know there's grills out there that can do it. I've seen them. They're thermostatically controlled, and they've got a temperature gauge on them. But if you're going to, and just hone your grilling skills, guys and gals, and you'll get famous for it. And your family will want to come over all the time. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. Your extended family. But cook outside. That way you keep all that heat outside. Does that make sense? Use your blinds and your curtains. They're not there just to look pretty. They actually have a function. So in the morning, you want to keep your east-facing windows and your south-facing windows. You want those blinds shut if you've got like mini blinds or something like that. Keep them closed all the way. Or at least keep them closed to the point where you're not letting sunlight in, that radiant heat gain, but you can still see outside, maybe, through the blinds at a particular angle. I don't know, maybe I'm guessing maybe 45 degrees angle on those. And just let some, allow yourself to see outside, but at the same time keep the sun from coming inside. And then in the west side of your house, you could keep those open for the additional light. So you're cutting back on your light bill, the light portion of your bill. But as the sun gets to the western sky, you want to go ahead and shut those to keep that. That sun is particularly hot after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. When it starts to enter the western sky, that's when it gets warm. That's when it's 100, 102. And just go up and touch your window frame sometime. Touch those blinds and see how hot they are. You could probably cook on them. The same with curtains. I mean, that's just another layer. If you've got blinds, shut those in the morning on the east side, on the west side in the evening. And then at the same time, go ahead and close your curtains. If you don't mind having a lot of sunlight in your house, go ahead and use your curtains or your drapes. And it's going to keep your air conditioner from working so hard. It's going to keep it cooler in your home. Set your thermostat at 78. Again, that's what the National Food and Energy Council says, and the Department of Energy, 78 degrees, and you have to acclimate to it. I mean, I take calls here at work on high bill concerns during the summer. It's like, my first question is, well, maybe my second. I might ask about the filter first. But my second question is this: what is your thermostat set on? And you'd be blown away by how many say 70 or 68 degrees. That's your winter setting. You don't really want that setting in the summer. Your air conditioner will run all day long. I've got a list of a few other things. We've only got a few more minutes. We're at 30 minutes right now. Open your windows at night. Now, we can do that if if your outside temperature is cooler than the inside temperature of your home. So if the outside temperature is 70 degrees and your inside temperature is 78, go ahead and turn off your air conditioner and put a fan next to one of the windows you open where the screen, obviously your screen is there, but you can bring in some of that cool air, particularly if it's rained outside where it's cooled things off quite a bit. And man, I tell you what, if you've got to create a cross breeze with another window open on the other side of the house, on the opposite side where it draws that air in, your house will smell good. It'll feel cool. You'll sleep better at night. And that's no joke. And then, of course, you don't want to forget to close those windows and blinds before things start to heat up the next morning. And then you'll close those blinds also. Insulate and air seal your home. Insulation in the attic, I mean, that is huge. And we offer a rebate here to Farmers Electric consumer members, $500 cash back rebate for those that add insulation to at least R30 with a minimum of 4 inches added. That will put a barrier between the hottest part of your house, which is the attic in the summer, beating down on your ceiling and then coming through your ceiling. If you put a barrier in there in the form of several inches of insulation, that heat is not going to be able to make its way as easily to your ceiling and into your room. So adding insulation is huge. We say R30 because some of the homes we serve in some of the older communities we serve don't have any insulation. So we say, hey, let's bring it to at least R30. We'd actually like to see R38 or higher. And new building standards in New Mexico ask for R48. So that's a crazy high number. But some of these are hitting that with particularly that foam insulation. And that's expensive, but you will get your money back eventually in cost savings for heating and air conditioning and comfort. We already talked about baking outside, firing up the grill, using your fans in the right place. You can use exhaust fans too, like when you're showering in the bathroom, it creates a lot of humidity. And that can turn into uncomfortable, unbearable heat that might leak out into the rest of the house. And it'll go into a nearest register too, a return for your central heating. So the best thing to do is pull that hot air out while you're in the bathroom or when you're cooking at night in the kitchen. It's not just for the smoke when you burn the bacon. I hope my wife's not listening. But it's about removing that heat that's created by cooking and pulling that into the attic and then out into the air. It's all about air exchange. And there's this fan. It's called a whole home fan. I think it's called No, it's not Mr. Cool. Anyway, there's a whole home fan that we're going to dedicate a show to one of these days. And I'm meaning to do it at my house, and I'm going to do it at my house because I just love fresh air. And if you can exchange your air, and it says you can exchange, if you've got a 2,000 square foot home with a standard ceiling, you can exchange all the air in that house in just like 2 minutes. And you've got fresh air from outside. So if it's cool outside, you've got this whole home fan that operates in a central location in your home and into the attic and out of the house. They're pretty amazing, everything I've read about them. So, before the next time we do, and I don't know if it's next week or not, we might get back on the pie chart next week on what uses most energy in your house. So we've gone over HVAC's number 1, water heating is number 2, lighting's number 3. we may, like today, we just took a day to talk about how we can curb these higher electric bills that are coming in and be comfortable at the same time. The last one on this list was make sure your ceiling fan is rotating counterclockwise. That's when you're looking at it. Kind of envision a clock and make sure it's turning counterclockwise and pushing that, creating that comfortable downdraft. Well, that was a quick 35 minutes and 43 seconds. But thanks for tuning in. We are on a number of different platforms now. We're on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcast and YouTube. And these drop every Saturday morning at 7 o'clock. So I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Morning Buzz with the Energy Guy. I thought I'd throw that in there. But really, I wanted to close with this. Glenn wants me to do more special effects, but I'm a little hesitant. I can't find it now. There we go. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.